So for the eligibility of a student for the Reengage program, it is to be an Alabama student, 25 years older, has been out of college for 2 years prior, but this is where we did give a little wiggle room. It does not mean that they have to be 2 years out prior to the start date of January 2024 when the grant funds are made available. It is that, say, perhaps a student enrolled there at your institution back in fall of 2022. And before that enrollment, there had been a 2-year stop-out gap. They would be then eligible for this program as long as they meet all the other qualifications that are stated here, as well as meet the SIP code requirements of the programs that have been assigned to your institution. So I think there may have been a misunderstanding there. We did try to give that in there, so you may want to ask some questions about that as we proceed. But they have to complete the FAFSA, and it has to be their first degree, whether it be associate or baccalaureate. For the associate degree would be 36 credit hours and 72 for baccalaureate. This is based off of a 60-hour program and a 120-hour program, so that at least 2/3 of the degree has been earned. We had to cap it at some place because degrees require a variety of different total hours. So we had to do something that would at least be within reason, so there was enough money. 4.5 does sound like a lot, but when you start spreading it across all the institution, it does somewhat to diminish somewhat. But they have been accepted, admitted into an approved program, and they have to be enrolled at least in 6 hours for every semester of this program. Otherwise, you could run into an issue of them not actually completing. This money does sunset December 2028. So, and we're not sure if we'll be refunded another set of money. We will be asking for it, but we do not know what's to come. So we want to make sure that we do this in a situation that gives ample time for students to actually earn a degree, because that's the ultimate goal. They have to be in good academic standing by your institution, and they have to be enrolled in a program that's of the ACCCP list, which we will talk about again in just a moment. Just to recap again, the full-time students have to be enrolled in at least 12 hours to be eligible, but we do have a capping of value at $1,500 for the associate level and $3,000 for bachelor's. And those under that, 6 to 11 hours of part-time will be prorated per credit hour at $125 for the community college and $250 for the university level. Note the last bullet. If a student decides to transfer to another institution while they're in this program starting the Reengage, they become ineligible. We made that because we want this student to be an asset to your account as well, so that you have a graduate to see it through. Of course, the demand list, this is what we used for the 2023 list, the 22-23 list of the statewide. I have provided this list here, the actual link, and we will have a PDF posted on our website so you can go back and look at it again. But it was a very tedious process that we went through. We were taking all of the lists that required a degree, and then we looked at the column of the opening weights and ranked them 1 through 4. And we took the salary weights, ranked those 1 through 4, combining those two values to get a 1 through 8 ranking. And it ended up being the top 15 slots was the values of 8 and 7. When you got to 6 and 5, it was a little bit broader. And actually, some of these SIPs can account for some of the other jobs that were in the listings of 6 and 5. But once we made this determination, we then went to the SIPs that's in our system to know what all the institutions offer. And we linked those to these occupation titles and came to this listing that you see now in front of you to determine the majors targeted for the high demand, high wage jobs. So how it started was we had a plan for 52 institutions and 41 offered SIPs across those institutions. Of course, not all institutions ended up having funding for various reasons, primarily based off of their Alabama resident graduation rates. But I know this is something that Dr. Purcell had discussed back in our August 1st presentation when we first brought this to everyone's attention. But the results were that 26 to 74 split between the associate and baccalaureate degrees were what gave us the in-state graduates since 2015 to then say how much money was allocated to each institution. So in the end, we now have 40 participating authorized colleges and universities. Remember, you're approved as being accredited by SAC-COC or COE, and that you're eligible to receive Title IV federal student aid program funds, as well as you maintain headquarters in Alabama. Then from the approved, you become authorized. Authorized are those approved institutions who did file the signed agreement with AIC indicating compliance with all rules and procedures. And that was done by September the 6th, I believe. And all 40 of these institutions did so. So I appreciate everyone's quick return around to get those to us. Then what we did was go through the graduation percentages. We considered at most, for example, this is your university. Since we're a community college, I will go to this slide. We looked at being 60 hours. So at most they might, from 36 to 60 would be 24 hours at 125. Did the at most scenario to give this potential available funding, and as well as your re-engaged recipient slots that might be. This is not a solid number, because you might have, well, you will have students, as I'm sure you've already seen, trying to identify students. Some might need 12 hours, some might need 20, so you just have a variation. But this was the best way we felt was fair to give everyone an ample shot at having money that they could use for these programs. So to let you know where we were after that, we did have to develop administrative code, and these are the 10 sections that are part of this code that was given to our commissioners back in September. So this is where we've been and where we're going. The approval process, September commission meeting was given those examples. If you'll notice here at the bottom, this part right here, this is our link to the entire list of all of our LSA proposals. We have some other revisions being made in other programs, but this last one is the actual PDF of what has been presented to the commission, as well as now posted within the Alabama Administrative Monthly. It was posted on September 29th. We have 45 days for comments to be given, and so far we have not received any, so that at the December meeting, those administrative procedures will be presented again to the commission for final approval as certified administrative procedures. And once that is done, I will file with LSA on December 19th for publication to be done December 29th to go into effect for our spring term. So from this process of developing our administrative procedures, we then developed a draft, and I emphasize draft. We still have a few tweaks we want to make maybe to the wording, but is very similar to our ANGAP application. But what we're going to do and what we're talking about at this time is that as your students fill out the application and turn into you, then you will have a roster sheet where you will enter certain information, and I'll share that with you in just a moment, that both the student's application and the roster will be uploaded to that SFTP location that was given to you previously back in September with data on potential students that we had collected for you. So keep that in mind. As I said, just keep your questions, write them down, and we'll discuss them in just a moment. But also, this is the roster that we're working on. This is our draft, and illustration will be given following this PowerPoint slide. But this is information we will pull from, and we devise this in a way to try to help you also track the students and know how your money is being used, so that you will make sure you don't overlook a student and address unique situations that may occur, such as stop outs, or maybe they have finalized their degree and you might still have money left over to allocate for another student. With this information, though, I will let you know right now it is not there on this website where all of our other grants and scholarships information is, but we have it on the backside ready to go once it's up and finalized. So I just wanted you to know it will be listed here on the left, as all of our other programs are, as well as on our allinalabama.org website. We will have a link here as well that will redirect back to that prior page I just showed you. So to make sure you know that we have the information, or if you have any questions, myself or even Arcola, she will be the grant administrator who's handling all of the paperwork as she does ANGAP. We were more than welcome to take any questions as we go through this. This is new for us as well. It's a very unique program. And so we know there may be a few challenges along the way, but we just ask for that open communication so we can handle it well in advance. I'm going to stop sharing at this time. So if you have any questions just for what I've already showed you before I actually get into that roster, I welcome those. Okay, I'm going to share now, and this is where maybe where you might have questions. And know that we are more than welcome to and open to do a one-on-one with you if you need be. Oh, concurrent. Okay, yes, I'm trying to see this chat. All right, so the 2-year stop. So the way that we've addressed this is that they to be able to maintain re-engage funding, they have to be fall, spring, then fall again. They may go and be funded in the summer, but it will not go against them if they are not enrolled in the summer. So definitely fall, spring term. 2-year stop out just means literally 2 years from the date of August, fall 22 prior, if they came in fall 2022, 2 years prior of academic term. If it was summer, then it would be 2 years prior. We're not trying to make that too difficult, but we want at least that 2-year stop out. The $1,500, is it for the year or by the semester? It is by the year. How would we know someone transferred from another school who had funds? Well, we would actually know that because on our side, we would have to notify and make some adjustments because we have a list of all the students and we will see their name pop up. So that's something we would have to acknowledge for you. And they would be disqualified if their name comes up again in another application from another institution. So it is $1,500 per semester or $125 for the 6 to the 11 part-time per hour. Good questions. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to share this screen. I think, let me make sure. All right, so you should be seeing, let me do it again because I kind of worry sometimes it's not doing right. Okay, I think I saw it do it now. So for this example of a 2-year, and I see a chat again. So we will need final approval from AIC before paid or the funds. Yeah, so this is, and I think your question will be answered here in this roster. So what will happen, you will have all the applications given to you, I believe, for example, let's take spring. February 15th is what we have in the administrative code for the students to submit their applications to you as an institution. And we are allowing at least 30 business days for the institution to go through those applications and actually put them on this roster that you see here before you in Excel. This is unique and different in that you do not want just anyone applying. It's not last dollar. So as an institution, you may want to make certain rules yourself or policies to help guide you in how you determine who receives the funding. But we give that limitation of the number of hours, the SIP, and then you might have more than enough, and some of you may not have enough. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. And that's the newness of it, I think. But for the overall funds, let me start here. Maybe this might help answer your question, Lisa, and others. So here's your institution, AIC University. And in that slot of money, we have said we have allocated $25,000. Now, this does not mean we're giving you a check cut for $25,000 up front. This means that in our entire batch of funding, we have said that we are at least hoping and setting aside $25,000 for AIC University to use for their students. Then in the spring, I've entered some students here. Let's say you have these people. They are either going to be new or returning each term. Of course, the first term they'll be new. This is going to be standard, and everything that's in green is what we need from you. Everything in gray or this yellow is something that has formulas behind the scene to actually put it into action. So this is what happens. Let's say here's Be Happy. And at your institution, you have 2 SIPs that are part of the ACCC program. The program name itself is different for every institution, so we left that open so you could enter it. But for the SIPs, we actually have a controlled list that we have applied to your institution. Then you're going to list how many hours are required to complete that program. And you will need, I would strongly advise in my working with this type program is to run a degree audit to see exactly how many hours they do have earned toward this program. And Be Happy here has 45 hours earned. So I'm going to delete for just a moment something so you see what happens. So if I entered 45, you'll notice that shows he has 19 hours because 45 from 64 is 19, but we only have 15 eligible hours for funding. This is because we have capped at 60 hours for a community college. Yes, I will be sending you this to use. This is what we've been working on, and I wanted to get your input today so you might see something we can make it even better. So that 15 hours then automatically comes here, and then you are going to put in how many hours the student has enrolled in during this term. So I believe I had 15. So at 15 hours, remember, we cap it at 12. I wanted you to keep in mind, we cap it at 12, but 15, they still get $1,500. Now, when Be Happy does this, 45 and 15 equals 60. So when I come in the summer, I'm just showing you Be Happy for the moment. Let's say he decides to enroll in the summer to take those 4 hours. So now he has earned 60. And when I put in 60, it shows a default of 4. And now he's enrolled in 4. But 4 is under the hours 2 ways here. It's under your part-time hours of 6 being the minimum. And it's also 4 hours in addition to the cap of 60. So we do not have any money to allocate to this student. Now, I will say, as we looked at this, you may have students that this happens at the last semester where the money is not there, but keep in mind, it's not about being last dollar. Hopefully they have other funding, and this is where you may need to choose who should most benefit from this re-engage funding. But we did talk about a possibility as we see this implemented going forth into this semester and the summer and coming into the fall, that perhaps, don't hold me to it, but perhaps that we might be able to make some minor revisions. We would have to take it before legislation, but to make some certain situation acceptances. We want to see students finish, but we can't just give all at the forefront because someone might have 138 hours required. Someone else might have, when you talk about the universities, someone else might have 72 at the community college. And so we have to try to make a fair limitation across the board so that at least everyone gets something. So that's not a sure thing, but we're going to see how this plays. But right now, this person would finish, hopefully, and over at degrees awarded, I scooted this over because this does go out to December 2028 for every sheet. You would list Be Happy that in the summer, Be Happy did earn a degree by summer 2024, and how much money was given was $1,500. As you do each term, so back to spring, you have Be Happy, John Johnson, and David Davison. All 3 of them together have earned this much money in their enrollment, and on overall funds, it automatically will drop into this slot so that you have, call it a running tab of what's happening with your money. So now by spring, you have spent $4,000, and you will see how much you have remaining out of your allocated funds. So in the summer, Be Happy received nothing. In the fall, I had someone returning. I had a new student, Al, Alabama. But notice that I had in the spring someone missing. I have David Davison is missing. He is not in the fall. He did not have to go in the summer, but he did have to come in the fall in order to keep this re-engaged. So at Stop Out, which I think I copied over a different name, at Stop Out, it should have been David Davison. He has, you would put in the student who stopped out and at what point, how many hours they had earned and how much money they had been given at that point, so that potentially there might be this much more money you could give to someone else. You have to keep in mind, it is a potential value because each student's enrollment makes a variance so that you can't say, I have exactly that left. So I'll go back again, and I might have skipped, maybe is what it was. So here's the spring, summer, fall. Yeah, I just didn't put them in. And in the spring, I had Alabama Al coming back, and you just see that it's just an ongoing account. So that in the end, I have so many with degrees, I have some with stop outs, and the overall funds is a continuation. Now, this is where you may or may not like this sheet, but we're trying to help you be proactive in actually planning. And this really takes a lot of strong advising for your advisors. But you have an overall students sheet that we're listing in here so that you put the term they started, how many hours they started with to earn, so that you could see a maximum amount they could potentially be awarded and how much they actually are. This is a running tab of what you give every time you enter someone. So this would be changed. It has to be manually entered here. But this is generated based off of the number of hours left for them to get their degree, minus from the 60 capping. So it's a lot of information, a lot of data. I'm a data nerd, so IRE is my background, mathematics, but I know from my own personal experience, sometimes it's a little difficult at first, but I think if you get comfortable with it, you'll see how it allows you to really make some decisions. I would suggest having this sheet saved two ways, one sheet as a what if and one sheet as a what is, so that it would be the what is that you actually ended up doing that semester that you upload to our SFTP file. And what we will do is, suppose, let's take spring, we would take all of your data from here. We would look at it with the student applications to make sure no mistakes. You know, we want to check for that, because human error can happen. Look through this, and then that's how we would know how much money to give to your institution. Now, I'm going to stop sharing just in case someone wants to ask. Will we receive policies and procedures? Yes. I would strongly encourage you to go to the website that's going to be part of that PowerPoint. On our website, we have what's there right now, and it's also the same information that has been posted to the Alabama Monthly, and read through those. You know, what happened, the money was not approved until June, so we were a very short window here being able to do all of this, and that's why it's kind of like it is. But I have not received any comments, so hopefully we will be good and not have anything changed. Let's see, will change of major be taken into account? Yes. Very good question. I'm glad you asked that. That is something else, as well as in the administrative code. We want them, once they start in a program, they are to finish in the program. If they change their major, they are no longer eligible for re-engage. We only want serious students who are really trying to finish a degree so that you can get that graduate count and we can give them that assistance. You may have said this, but are there specific school staff that have access? Okay, so yes, Stephanie, when I emailed back in September the data files, I had copied the people who have that SFTP access at each institution. I think sometimes maybe for the community college system, things may be uploaded and shared from ACCS office, but we do have individual users for each institution. And if you're not sure who that is, we are more than happy to share that with you. But that, if you'll look back at September, that email that was sent, I believe, let's see, September 19th, they should have been a copied person. Some had more than one. And our IT person, Wanda Rowe, I will put her information in there. Sure. And if they're not sure about that, Wanda Rowe was very kind in helping everyone. So let me give you her. She had said anyone could ask her questions at, let me do this. Okay, so if any of you have questions about, well, let me do this again. Questions about having access to our SFTP, please chat with Wanda Rowe. And if you would copy me on the email, just so I can follow up and make sure we're all together on the same page to make sure you know what's going on to have access to it. This will be easier than having to use snail mail. You know, we can upload. We're trying some different ways on our side as far as using Excel spreadsheets. So we're trying to make things a little more streamlined for everyone. Are there other questions? It's a lot to take in. We will be at the financial aid conference on November 3rd. So I'll be going through a lot of this similarity, and maybe in person you might be more comfortable, or you've even thought more about what we've said today to ask some questions. Anyone else? The silence and the lack of faces makes me a little nervous. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Everybody's probably just trying to process it a little bit.
I know. Well, you know, and so that's why I strongly encourage you, if you have a situation, because everybody's unique. So if you have a situation you want to just, you know, process it together, feel free to call me. Oh, what was the February 15th deadline? So yes, that's the spring application. Hey, if you'll see in the administrative code, we actually have dates. So it is usually February, I think it's February 15th, June 15th, September 15th. We try to keep a consistency for each semester. So that's when they get it to you. And then then we give you 30 days of business days to get it to us and upload. It's very similar to ANGAP timeframe, from what I understand. But our terms start early January. Yeah, so you know, they can have the application. It's just if you think you already have everybody, you can, earlier is fine. It's just this is the latest they can get it to everyone. This is why this worksheet would help. If you have a student, you can run through and see if they've met all the qualifications. And I think this spring, I understand, I think it's so tight. I expect more students. Hopefully you can find maybe summer or in the fall. But the earlier you're able to get them in, the quicker we can get them graduated and have this funding to maybe have even more for those, you know, to still come in, because this is still good until December of 28. A lot of moving parts. But you have to put parameters, especially for adult learners. Sometimes, you know, they get nervous and we don't want them to back out. We want to give them some incentive to stay strong and finish. But if we see there are issues, you know, those are things we can take to consideration. So that's why I ask, if you have some problems or concerns, please share them with us. It's always easier to add on than to take away. So that's why we have such limitation up front, if need be. Anyone else? This afternoon. How long will it be before I share this recording? As soon as it finishes and wraps up, I'll be asking to be posted. Hopefully they should have it up by this afternoon. Textbook assistance. So actually, this is money. I mean, it's not, we do not have any guidelines as to what this money is to be applied toward other than grant given to student. So at the institution, if you see a need or a way that you feel you might want to do something with your policy, that's up to you. But it's intended to be not a last dollar, but just to help someone. Maybe they need that extra financial assistance to see it through. Yes, the student can receive a refund with these dollars to use with other items. Yes. Could I include the application document? That may be a day or two, actually, simply because we wanted to tweak a few words and we don't really want to have it out and everyone assume that's the form. So that's why you saw draft everywhere. But you can look at it, and I would appreciate you looking at it off of the PowerPoint presentation to give any feedback. Okay, where within SFTP would the roster be? How do I help our contact identify the file? Okay, so from what I understand, and Nikisha, you're on, you might want to address that question. I know, trying to see, she might have got pulled away.
No, I'm here.
Okay, there you are. I see you now.
Is it the last one about the refund?
It is the question about where within SFTP would the roster be? How do I help our contact identify the file?
Okay, that is actually on that upload, download folder. Whenever you log into the system, it's in date order. So the most recent one will be on top and it will be labeled as such. So for the roster or the other document, any other document you upload.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking, everyone, is that this sheet is the full gamut of time frame, but we only look at the information per term to decide what you need out, what you need to get a check for, but it's long term for us to do the check and balances. So I'm thinking we keep the name, say it's Reengage roster, but then at the end you would put spring 2024. At the next term you put summer 2024. That would help identify which term. I think it should be by term probably, but anything like that, I will be most definitely sharing in an email to let you know what its name is and how we needed to name it so we have a consistency. Great questions. Anyone else? Well, as you think of questions, and you might have something that maybe we did not answer, we can do so. The roster is currently out there on SFTP to download. No, it is not. We wanted to present the roster to you today and let everybody get a minute to think about it and give us feedback. But it will be shared soon. I actually could, and I'll say this, the roster you receive is specific to your institution. So you would have your college name here and the amount of money for you specifically allocated. So we're having to create 40 Excel spreadsheets, as well as making sure each one of those sheets has the zip codes that have been identified for the institution. So what I can do is provide this example sheet if you would like, so you can toy with it, but it won't be your actual one. Would that help? As far as the Excel worksheet like ANGAP to help determine eligibility, it's different from ANGAP. We're leaving more of that to be on you as an institution to make sure that they meet those specifications. I'm going to go back to the draft, if I may. Wait a minute, so the draft of the, okay, so here's the draft of the actual student application. So the student is to fill out all the top information. Oops, sorry. And then here is where you are to fill out that have their FAFSA completion on file, re-engage award status, whether they're new or returning, the SIP code, because the student has to tell the undergraduate degree program, and you know which SIP that belongs to because everyone's degree program is named differently. The hours of enrollment, if they're a resident or not, and a degree audit on file. We ask that you do have a degree audit, and all this information should then be there for you to know exactly what to put on this roster. As far as what, as compared to the ANGAP, I think it's slightly different, but that is an Arcola question to see if she wants to do something extra, and I will be sure to check with her, but she did not mention anything different yesterday, as of yesterday. I think the Excel spreadsheet would allow you a little bit more of understanding of their eligibility as well. That's where the what if would help to work with the student before they actually enroll. We don't want to have a student enroll and then incur additional unnecessary debt. You know, we want them to be able to finish. We as an institution will send applications to potential students to complete. We'll have that available online as well as we do the other applications. Yes, you can do that. However, we review the applications and complete the appropriate section. We pass the approved applications to AIC. AIC will review and send the approved roster via SF2P to let us know who will receive the reward. Yes. Like for the funds, how much has been used, how much is left, things like that. Yes, that's what allows you to see within the what if form of the roster, if you keep that filed so that you can actually know how much more money you have and how many more students you need to bring in order to use those allocated funds. I hope I'm answering your question. Yes, per student. I'll pull that back. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to try sharing. So in the Excel spreadsheet, we have a student overview when they start, so you can see right up front how much money, if they have this number of hours required for the program, then they have earned this number of hours of that program from your audit review. Then this is how many hours are left to actually graduate. But with the capping of 60 hours, this is how much we could potentially fund. And this would be the maximum amount of money that we could provide for that student. See, this student has 12 hours left to degree completion, but their program is in excess of 60 hours. So that is 4 additional hours. So that is why we can only pay for 8. But they could potentially finish in one semester by taking a full load at 12 hours, which will help them with all other potential financial aid. And they would get an additional $1,000. And this is where you can keep a manual running tab of how much you have given to each student. And then within each term, you are also keeping up with how much money is allocated by the term. The difference of this is I don't think you'll have as many students as you might think you may have, because they have to have at least 36 hours. So you may not be working with maybe 5-10 students at the most, maybe 20, but it will be a small group of students. Are there any other questions? I hope I have answered everyone's question. Trying to make sure. So this recording will be posted along with the PowerPoint. And it is an informative session, meaning that this is pretty much the way it's going to be. But if you see something or have a suggestion, we are open to that, because we still have a small, slight window of time. But we know you're trying to identify your students because they need to know and get all the paperwork done so they can actually register if they're coming back to school in the spring. But remember, you may have students already right there at your institution who are currently enrolled, but they had a 2-year stop out before they returned, who could also fit this situation. And we could help them just to finish, to see them through. All right, so I really appreciate everyone, and I'm going to go ahead and end this session, and feel free to email me or Arcola. Hopefully you have wandaroe.ake.edu in the chat. I provided that information. If you need to have more information about the SFTP process, she'll be more than happy to help. I really appreciate your time, and I know it's a lot to take in, so digest it as best you can, and we'll have even maybe greater conversations on November 3rd at the financial aid meeting. I look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.